Leslie. What a beautiful way to move into today's gathering. Welcome, everyone. This is Sunday, May the 21st, and I'm Reverend Lady Mother Saundra Addison-Britto here at Triumph Life Center, 950 Bergen Street, Newark, New Jersey, and we welcome you to this safe and sacred space. Thank you for joining us today and for being with us in our Sunday gathering. Welcome to our team. Thank you for joining us this morning. Good to see everyone and hope everything all is well with everyone. We are in the third week, I think, of May, the third Sunday. So we're moving quickly through this month. And we've had a great month. Last week, we celebrated Mother's Day, which was a wonderful and beautiful day. And I hope all mothers and those who serve in the role as mother or the nurturer and caregiver was able to experience some joy on that day. So today, this week, we're continuing with our theme that we started with early in the month. As we noted, that month is the month of May is Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And so we're going to continue to celebrate and acknowledge contributions and bring some awareness to the Asian Pacific Islander community this week and next week. And this month is also Mental Health Awareness Month. So it's very important for me, this topic is, and I'll share more about that later, but today we're also going to be just focusing our attention on that idea of mental health and just bringing awareness to that topic, especially in light of some of you may know, those that are here on the East Coast may have heard what happened with the young man, the young homeless African-American man, Jordan Neely, on the subway in the midst of a mental health crisis, and was choked or strangled to death by another young man, a 24-year-old former ex-Marine. And just the issues surrounding that idea of mental health in our society, the intersection of race and gender, and how do we embrace one another in a healthy, wholesome way and address the concern. So we're going to talk about that today. But before we get into that, I just want to check in with the team and ask, how's everybody doing? I know Wes is having some challenges with his voice, but welcome, Wes, and thank you for opening up with that just beautiful medley to just bring us into this space and feeling at peace for myself, just feeling at peace this morning as I'm here in this space. Nadia, how are you doing? Any updates? How's the job going? How are you?
It's good in general. Enjoying the weather today or after work.
Yesterday was rainy over there in Brooklyn too, right?
Yeah.
And the workload you're still easing into that with the clients and just making all of that happen in that space, that new space where you're at?
Yeah, trying my best.
Great, good to hear. Brenda is off today. She's still working through the last courses of her graduate program. So we're sending energy and positive energy and love her way. Next week, she'll be back and she's going to be continuing sharing on this topic of mental health. And we're looking forward to that. But Bettina, how are you today?
I'm well, and yourself?
I'm doing well. Did you do anything special for Mother's Day with your mom?
We just went to the park. We was in the park listening to music, had some wine. That's it.
It was beautiful last Sunday. So it was a beautiful day to sit outside in the park.
Yes, so we went to the park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's beautiful just to be in nature, and that's fitting with the song that we released, The Forces of Nature, that talk about Mother Nature and just connecting with Mother Nature as we try to do here at Triumph Life, and just to spend time. It's something that's free. It costs us nothing to just be outdoors and to experience the beauty of Mother Nature. So that sounds like it was exciting. Want to welcome, I think Shaka is on with us this morning. Welcome, Shaka, to this space. We so appreciate you. I shared with our board on Friday when we met that we have this community garden now growing here at 950 Bergen Street in the yard, thanks to Shaka Georges. And we have, what do we have? We have peas, and we have, oh, I can't even think of all it. Peas, lemons, peppers, a whole bunch of stuff. So we have fruits, vegetables, and tulips right in the backyard. Can you believe that? It's a community garden, and the hope is to expand it so that our community can both nurture it and be nourished by it. So that's the plan. We're also looking forward to, as we expand it, just going even into our front yard with some funding we're hoping to receive, painting the mural on the front wall, and just really making this space on this corner beautiful, and beautiful aesthetically, and also beautiful as we can participate in something that is that we can all benefit from, and that's the community garden. So shout out to Shaka Georges. Thank you so much for initiating that for us and for our community to just be able to partake in this. All right, I don't know if anyone else is on, or for those that will be coming in, welcome again. For those on social media, welcome. Thank you for being with us today. If you would hit like and share and tell someone else that we're here, and invite them to come in and join us. So I'm going to move on as we open with our meditation. I'm going to lead the meditation this morning because, again, Brenda's not with us. So I'm going to ask us to, as is our custom, to just find yourself at a space where you are comfortable, where you can relax your body and just ease into this space with us. And as we collectively take a few breaths together, and I'm going to sit down also during this time. As we take a few breaths together, I'm going to ask that we just intentionally focus on the breath. As we slowly inhale and exhale, relaxing the body as much as you can, and just really leaning into, or just settling into the body as your space, as your sacred space, as your temple, as your holy temple, as your place of refuge, as the place that nourishes you, as the place that's always with you, that will never leave you. Just feel the love that is experienced by just being the spiritual being in this earthly vessel. And the gift that we have of life to experience this material world, to experience one another, and to experience the beauty that this life offers. And as we sit in this space, just not rushed, quieting our mind and thoughts, even listening for your heartbeat, the rhythm of life. The heart beats, it pumps blood through our veins and throughout our body, and that beat is to a rhythm, the rhythm of our life. Feel it, experience it. Feel the life force that you are. Spiritual being, eternal being, one that was never born and will never die yet. For this moment, able to be present in time, at this place, at this moment, to experience this material realm. I want us to use as a focal point this thought, just 2 words. I am. And I want you to take those 2 words in a thought and allow your spirit, your mind, your heart, the universe to respond to that I am in whatever way it does. Don't force it, don't search for it, just allow it to be. And if you just say within, I am. In this moment, I am. Right now, I am. Just feel the I amness of your being. I am. And as we come back together, let's just take a few intentional breaths, paying attention to our breath. Again, slowly come back, keeping that awareness of and that thought of the joy of just being present in this temple, this sacred temple we call our body, our sanctuary, our holy place. All right, I hope everyone was able to experience that in a way that empowered you, granted you maybe an element of peace, some contentment, and some joy on this morning. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Is Minister Bina with us? Somebody unmute and let me know.
Yes, yeah. I'm here. I'm here.
All right.
Yes.
Good to see you, Minister Bina. How are you doing? How's our family in Nigeria?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you. And good to see you all. Hello, everyone.
We missed you last week. We sent out a happy Mother's Day to your sister and your mom in love and all those mothers there in Nigeria that are not over here, that are in the motherland and not here with us. I'm going to ask if you would open us up with prayer, with our prayer this morning.
Sure.
Okay, following Minister Obina, we'll have the scripture by Patina, which is coming from Japanese Shinto saying, and also today's quote will be followed. Patina will share with us. Go ahead, Minister Obina.
Okay, it's opening prayer. Unity of all. Antoyo. Antoyo means let the way in the Dakota. Let us pray. God of surprises, you call us from the narrowness of our traditions to new ways of being church, from the captivities of our culture to creative witness for justice, from the smallness of our horizons to the bigness of your vision. Clear the way in us, your people, that we might call others to freedom and renewed faith. Clear the way in us, your people, that we might call others to wholeness and integrity. Great Spirit, we call us from fear to faithfulness, from clutter to clarity, from a desire to control to deeper trust, from the refusal to love to readiness to risk. Clear the way in us, your people, that we might all know the beauty and power and danger of the gospel.
Ashe. Thank you, Minister Bina.
To be fully alive is to have an aesthetic perception of life, because a major part of the world's goodness lies in its often unspeakable beauty. Shinto saying. Today's quote: if you plant for 1 year, plant rice. If you plant for 10 years, plant trees. If you plan for 100 years, educate mankind. Chinese proverb.
Thank you. Thank you, Bettina. Thank you for sharing both our sacred text, our scripture, and our quote for today. Nadia is going to come now with our 7 life-affirming principles. But Nadia, before you do, I had a short slide in the beginning that shared a little information about Asian Pacific Islander who may identify as Pacific Islander and who may identify as Asian. If you would just share that with us and then share the 7 life-affirming principles.
Okay, let me just go back.
Thank you.
This one, right?
Yes, that's it.
Understanding what the term AAPI, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, means. Who may identify as Pacific Islanders? The Pacific Islands are island nations in the Pacific Ocean that are located in the geographic region called Oceania. This classification includes, but is not limited to, people from Samoa, Tahiti, Guam, Fiji, and Papua New Guinea. Native Hawaiians are Pacific Islanders from the islands of Polynesia. The U.S. federal government has used the term AANHPI, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander, to make overt intentions to include Native Hawaiians and to center their experiences in response to the U.S. colonizing their native land and making it a state. Who may identify as Asian? Today, the U.S. Census Bureau classifies Asians as having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, South Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including but not limited to Korea, China, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, India, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. While Filipinos are Southeast Asians, some have aligned historically with the term Pacific Islander more than Asian. Some Filipinos might identify with the term Pacific Islander to protest the lack of inclusion in the Asian American umbrella. However, they are still considered Asian. Some Filipinos have connected to the term Brown Asian to connotate that their experiences as Asian Americans are influenced by their skin color. Cultural and ethnic identities are complex, intersecting, and constantly in flux. While it is impossible to completely categorize and organize all aspects of cultural identity, the effort to learn and understand is an important educational journey.
Thank you, Nadia. I just think it was important to share this as we are bringing awareness to Asian American Pacific Islander this month, that a lot of people may not know what groups identify as such or who they should identify as such. And I think where Nadia ended with the idea that cultural and ethnic identities are complex. And so we probably should ask someone if we don't know, instead of making assumptions about someone's identity. Thank you, Nadia, again for sharing that as we celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islanders this month. We're going to now move to our 7 life-affirming principles.
Priam's 7 life-affirming principles, community agreements. 1, we affirm that life is in the breath, and breath is life. Therefore, we join together to promote our shared humanity and inseparable breath. We affirm that we are born whole, complete as perfect manifestations of the universal mind. We affirm our physical bodies differ, and as such may present different challenges, limitations, or privileges that everyone may not share. Therefore, we join together to share our strengths and support one another where there may be weaknesses so that we all may enjoy the fullness of life. We affirm that we agree to pursue peace, walk in truth, and uphold justice tempered with mercy. We affirm that we are like branches on a tree, although we may grow in different directions. We share a common root, and as such, we pledge to respect each person's path, even as they may differ from one's own. We agree to walk in agreement that it is all right to disagree, and we protect and safeguard this right in so much as the state of disagreement upholds an affirmation of life. We affirm that community building is the process of communally shared principles, shared resources, as well as equitable access to resources. Therefore, we commit to being agents of an open culture that welcomes everyone to participate in the life of the community, with the provision that we also hold each other accountable for acts that do not support the life-affirming principles of our awareness, while equally looking for and enacting a commitment to forgive and restore in the spirit of humility and love. Lastly, we affirm the earth and all that dwell therein. Our manifestation is held within the universal mind, and humanity's role is to be faithful stewards of this earth by demonstrating respect and dignity for all beings, the sacredness of Mother Earth, and our commitment to caring for her as we care for ourselves.
Ashe and Amen. That's who we are. That's how we come together as a community here at Triumph Life. Very simple acknowledgments of our shared humanity and our shared relationship with Mother Earth. So thank you, Nadia. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so it's now time, I believe, for our sacred readings. And we have 4, as always, and these all 4 are coming from the Shinto sayings, I believe. And so we're going to ask Fatina, you want to just instruct us how we will move through these? Because I've laid these somewhat to your charge over the last few months.
Yes, I'll read the first 2.
Okay.
I'll read the last 2 then.
The last 2. Thank you. Thank you, Nadia. All right. So Wesley will set the pace for us with the sacred music, and then we'll embark upon the journey. Listen, enjoy, and hope you're inspired, that you may learn something new and or maybe challenged. So let's begin.
Although the people living across the ocean surrounding us, I believe, are all our brothers and sisters, why are there constant troubles in the world? Why do winds and waves rise in the ocean surrounding us? I only earnestly wish the wind will soon puff away the clouds which are hanging over the tops of the mountains. When sorrow lays us low, for a second we are saved by humble windfalls of the mindfulness of memory, the taste of a fruit, the taste of water, that face given back to us by a dream. The first jasmine of November, the endless yearning of the compass, a book we thought was lost. The throb of ex meter, the slight key that opens a house to us, the smell of a library or of sandalwood, the former name of a street, the colors of a map, an unforeseen analogy, the smoothness of the filtered fingernail, the date we were looking for, the 12 dark bell strokes tolling as we count a sudden physical pain. 8 million Shanto deities travel secretly throughout the earth. Those modest gods touch us and move on.
What is Shinto? What do you know of religion in Japan? Not much, you say. Do they worship an animal or a man? Is it observed only on Sunday? Shinto, do you know what it means? It is the spirituality of Japan, a practice that is routine. It's not a cult or a clan. Shinto means way of the gods and stresses the virtue of cleanliness. This isn't odd. Don't forget another point, friendliness. Kami is a sacred space that is for prayers or a special ritual. It is believed to live in a beautiful place. For the Japanese, this practice is habitual. Now you know a little more about another country and their belief. Can you tell me more than before? And now that this is over, it is such a relief. By Molly Ann Buellington, Trinity Hayes, Ivy Levis, and Brianna Summers. Our eyes may see some uncleanliness, but let not our mind see things that are not clean. Our ears may hear some uncleanness, but let not our mind hear things that are not clean. Shinto prayer.
Thank you, Nadia and Fatina. Thank you for just sharing that. We want to just take a moment, a brief moment. If there's one of the readings that someone wants to comment on or respond to or speak about, you can just unmute now and go ahead. So the first one was a Shinto prayer of peace that Fatina read. Second one, again, of saying from Shinto by George Louis Borges. And then what is Shinto, Bullington et al. And then it ended with a Shinto prayer. Any comments? If not, we'll move on. We still have a lot that we want to cover. All right, so again, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Sabina, go ahead.
Okay, I want to speak on the first sacred reading, the Shinto prayer for peace.
Great.
Okay. See, it's really a prayer of peace, irrespective of religion and or ethnicity. One has to always pray for peace, not only in the world, but also for peace in our mind, body, soul, and spirit, for total cleansing and healing, for the removal of everything that is causing stress, troubles, grief, sorrow in our world, and to guide our path through life, and for our enemies to be at peace with us. We need to live peacefully in this home we share, for our planet to become a shining beacon of love, compassion, and sincerity for all. Having in fullness the spirit of welcome, unity, and mutual respect, so that the infinite grace of God will enable us to walk towards the building of a lasting peace in the world. Prayer is about our relationship to God, and like relationship, it requires time. Praying for peace means starting with God and our willingness to love God and our neighbors. And the Prince of Peace taught his followers how to pray. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 10, said, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." So here, Shinto can be a beautiful solution, a way to give our minds a break and tune into state of peace. So may peace prevail in our hearts. May we all know one another and experience deep peace within and reflect that love to others. Again, let our minds seek truth with humility and openness. Therefore, and then God shall instill in our hearts the courage to take concrete steps to achieve peace we all need. And to the other one, I have a little knowledge about what is Shinto. I've read much of that before. And to my little knowledge, Shinto is Japan's indigenous religion and a native religion anyway. As stated here also, the spirituality of Japan is and a practice that is routine, is just a routine practice. The main belief of Shinto is the worship of kami. And the followers of Shintoism believe that spiritual powers exist in natural world. And they also believe that kami lives in natural places like animals, plants, stones, mountains, rivers, people, and even the dead. So both Shinto and Christianity put a significant amount of emphasis on ceremonies and rituals that are intended to draw followers closer to God. So they both place a significant emphasis on the importance of community, family, and tradition. Shinto is based on the worship of natural spirits, while Christianity revolves on the teaching of Jesus Christ as its unit headed. Belief is a state of mind when we consider something true, even though we are not 100% sure of it or about to prove it. And everybody has belief about life and the world they experience. The practice of religion and culture is good for individuals, families, states, and even the nation because it improves learning, health, economic well-being, self-control, self-esteem, and empathy. Lastly, religion gives people something to believe in. It provides a sense of structure and typically offers a group of people to connect with other familiar or similar beliefs. These facets can have a large positive impact on mental health because research suggests that religiosity reduces suicide rates, alcoholism, and drug use. Thank you.
Thank you. That was excellent. Thank you for just sharing. And I didn't know you was going to do that, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much for just sharing with us first your commentary on the prayer, the Shinto prayer for peace, but also then just sharing some context for the Shinto faith, religion, or their practice and tradition. That was very, very great. And thank you for just underscoring for us the role that religion plays and the importance of religion and how it can be really a buffer for us when we're challenged or addressing mental health issues. So thank you again, Minister Obina. I appreciate that. I appreciate you for just sharing that with us. All right, so what I want to move on to now is I've shared a little bit more information from the Asian Pacific Islander community. And this information that we want to share now is specifically addressing issues of mental health. And then Nadia is going to share this. I know Nadia, I hope Nadia is still with us. I know she was having some tech issues, but Nadia is going to share this information, 3 brief slides, just to give us some context. Often we see other communities and we see them different from ourselves. We understand sometimes the complexity of the challenges that we face within our ethnic, racial, or cultural group, but we think other communities are different and they may not have those same challenges or issues or not to the same degree. So really in understanding others that may be different or we think are different from ourselves, it's important to just give some context to our shared experiences and how they differ and how they parallel or how they are the same. So Nadia is going to come and share that with us. And then I'll come back before Bettina shares. All right. So Nadia, let me know if you're able to cue up the slides and if you're able to share.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Asian mental health from UCLA Health, confronting mental health barriers in the Asian American and Pacific Islander community by UCLA Health. Even before the Atlanta spa shooting in March 2021, during which 8 people, 6 of whom were Asian women, were killed, the amount of anti-Asian rhetoric and incidents had been on a steep incline, increasing by 150% since the previous year. Such acts of violence reinforce trauma and fear within the Asian American and Pacific Islander AAPI community and have profound effects on mental and physical health. According to Gilbert Gee, PhD, professor in the Department of Community Health Sciences at the UCLA Fielding School of Public Health, reports of discrimination and unfair treatment have been linked to major depressive disorders, clinical anxiety disorders, and mood disorders. Physically, those mundane, everyday experiences of microaggressions can contribute to stress and allosteric load, wear and tear on the body. In some cases, Dr. Gee says, racism and discrimination faced by older Chinese Americans have been shown to increase the odds of suicidal ideation. Different ethnicities, different needs. The AAPI community is made up of more than 22.6 million individuals with more than 40 distinct ethnicities, along with distinct differences in language, religion, education, socioeconomic status, and immigration patterns. For example, 33% of Korean American adults experience symptoms of depression, while 16% of Chinese Americans experience similar symptoms. Whereas 78% of Filipino American women rate their mental health as excellent or very good, only 45% of Chinese American women and 50% of Vietnamese American women. Rates of various mental health diagnoses also differ between generations regardless of ethnicity. For example, second-generation Asian Americans have higher rates of psychopathology, symptoms that may indicate mental disorders, than Asian Americans who immigrated to the US, according to a 2014 study in the Asian American Journal of Psychology. Aggregation is a big problem because Asian Americans represent so many diverse groups. Dr. Gee says you have people from Pakistan who are assumed to be equivalent to people from Korea or from Thailand or the Philippines. And all these subgroups are very different. Still, AAPIs as a group faces several systemic changes in the US that may impact access to mental health services, such as harmful stereotypes and bias, language barriers, and lack of insurance. The most well-known type is that of the model minority, which arose in 1966 from a story in the New York Times and have been perpetrated by Western society to this day. The stereotype presents Asian Americans as the quiet success story of all other racial minority groups. However, research shows that model minority myth can drive resentment from non-AAPI peers. This leads to isolation and bullying of AAPI individuals who then experience depression and anxiety. The myth is cited as one of the strongest sources of stress for Asian American youth. Culture and mental health. Overall, Asian Americans are 50% less likely than other racial groups to seek mental health services. In some Asian cultures, mental health challenges are viewed as individual problems or weaknesses, and talking openly about sadness, disappointment, or depression is rarely encouraged. We know that within the Asian American populations, the stigma around mental health is really significant. Asian Americans are more likely to be fearful about a diagnosis or accessing mental health. Dr. Gee says it's important for mental health providers to acknowledge the effect racism, harassment, and discrimination have on health. We really need to also think about the fundamental ideas that we put into our textbooks, how we think about race and race groups in general in the US, he says. We really need to be doing work thinking about these broader systemic issues alongside the lower interpersonal types of discrimination in order to make a difference.
Wow, that was so much. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, I appreciate that. I know for me, just doing this research and learning this information was quite enlightening for me. I don't know about those that are on, if anyone has any comment or feedback, but it's so important, especially for me here, say at Triumph for Life, as our goal is and our vision is that we're a community that welcomes everyone at the table. That happens when we are able to see others in both their likeness to ourselves and their differences, their similarities and their those things that are specific to their culture, their ethnic group, their background, and just learning more about the intersection of mental health and the broader Asian Pacific Islander community was very, very enlightening for me. I must say that that whole idea of the Asian Americans being the model citizen or being the model minority was not something that just happened by happenstance. And I don't have time to go into it today, but you could do your own research on this. This happened, as Nadia read, in the mid-60s, and that was in the wake of racial rioting and upheaval within the African-American community, the Monahan report, and trying really to pit from a governmental level, one minority group at that time against the other. And how do you do that? You set someone up as better than the other. And so you create this divide. During the early part of the 60s, a lot of Asian Americans, certainly Chinese Americans, Japanese Americans, thought of themselves as people of color. And so their identity was more with the communities of color than it was with the dominant white America. And dividing those groups and splintering those groups into segments where like crabs, one is talking about the other, trying to pull the other down, or buying into myths and stereotypes was an important part of controlling minorities in this country. So I just wanted to just footnote that. There's a whole history about that, and you can look that up for yourself. Again, thank you, Nadia. Any quick feedback before we move on? So next, what I wanted to bring into the conversation before I share my final thoughts on my sermon for today was to just give some context to this topic of mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think I saw my sister Bandley come on, who is a mental health professional. And so I would ask her to just afterwards, as I give my commentary, anything that she would like to share, I just welcome that. But to share some of the myths and the facts around mental health, because it's still one area in our country where there's so much misinformation that we deal with and that's circulated. Again, I talked about when we opened Jordan Neely, the young African-American man that was homeless, had a history of mental health, mental illness, diagnosed with a mental health disorders, illness, and on the subway, acting irrational, as has been reported, but yet not having a weapon or physically harming anyone, but was killed, put into a chokehold and strangled. And the country, as we've seen so frequently, has been somewhat divided on this idea. Was this justified? The young man that killed him, a former Marine, happens to be a white fella. Was he being a model citizen by stepping in and protecting the other people on the subway? But underlying all of this is what I hear is the ignorance surrounding mental health, how that presents itself, and how as a society, from a social justice perspective, we have failed one another, ourselves and one another, by not being more proactive in finding ways to reach and treat and safeguard all of us from issues of mental health. So Bettina, if you would go ahead and share the next few slides, and then I'll come back with my sermon for this morning.
Mental health myths and facts. Mental health issues can't affect me. That's a myth. Fact, mental health issues can affect anyone. In 2020, about 1 in 5 American adults experience a mental health condition in a given year. 1 in 6 young people have experienced a major depressive episode. 1 in 20 Americans have lived with a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depression. Additionally, suicide is a leading cause of death in the United States. In fact, it was the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 24. Suicide has accounted for the loss of more than 45,979 American lives in 2020, nearly double the number of the lives lost to homicide. Myth: children don't experience mental health issues. Fact: even very young children may show early warning signs of mental health concerns. These mental health conditions are often clinically diagnosed and can be a product of the interaction of biological, physiological, and social factors. Half of all mental health disorders show first signs before a person turns 14 years old, and 3/4 of mental health disorders begin before age 24. Unfortunately, only half of children and abstinent and diagnosable mental health conditions receive the treatment they need. Early mental health support can help a child before problems interfere with other developmental needs. Myth: people with mental health conditions are violent. Fact: people with mental health conditions can be just as productive as other employees, especially when they are able to manage their mental health conditions well. Employers often do not know if someone has a mental health condition, but if the condition is known to the employer, they often report good attendance and punctuality, as well as motivation, good work, and job tenure on par with or greater than other employees. Only 3% to 5% of violent acts can be attributed to individuals living with a serious mental illness. In fact, people with severe mental illness are over 10 times more likely to be victims of a violent crime than the general population. You probably know someone with a mental health condition and don't even realize it, because many people with mental health conditions are highly active and productive members of our communities.
We have one more, Bettina?
That's all
I think the bottom of the third one, I think where it says mental health issues are a result of personality. Health issues are a result of personality weaknesses or character flaws.
I don't see that.
Okay, I'll read it. A mental myth. Mental health issues are the result of personality weaknesses or character flaws, and people can snap out of it if they try hard enough. Fact. Mental health conditions have nothing to do with being lazy or weak, and many people need help to get better. Many factors contribute to mental health conditions, including biological factors such as genes, physical illness, injury, or brain chemistry, life experiences such as trauma or a history of abuse, family history of mental health conditions, as well as others. Thank you, Bettina, for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And for those that are with us in the Zoom room, those that may be watching now or later, this is such an important conversation for myself. And I have about 15 minutes, I guess, to kind of share what my thoughts are as we go into this topic. So let me begin by saying, one, I am not a mental health professional. That's a disclaimer. I'm not a mental health professional. I do not have any specialized training in the field of mental health. So I'm not talking to you today as a mental health practitioner or someone with specialized training. Other than a few psychology courses in undergraduate school, and in graduate school, I did study some of Freud's work and some of Jung's work. But other than that, I really did not focus in psychology or any area that deal with mental health. My major field, especially in graduate school, was in religious studies and spirituality. So my sermon today comes first from my training in the field of religious studies. Second, my own personal exposure to mental health concerns within faith communities that I have been involved with. I'm not talking in general, I'm talking about my own personal experience here. And third, to my family history, as well as my own history with mental health concerns. So what is mental health? Bettina shared some of the myths and then try to debunk those with facts. So what is mental health? 1 in 5 adults, as Bettina shared, will experience a mental health condition each year, 1 out of 5. So there's more than 5 of us adults on this call. I'm not sure how many are in social media, and we'll watch this later, but one of the 5 of us will experience a mental health condition over the next year. Mental health, though, like one's physical health, requires ongoing attention and care. So physically, those of us that are adults understand, or we should, that our physical health and maintaining our physical health is not a one-time event. You don't go to the doctor once in a lifetime and then show up again, 50 years later. Maintaining health is something that's an ongoing process that involves medical attention. It involves a healthy lifestyle, what you eat, what you drink, exercise, etc. Likewise, mental health is not a one-time event. It's something that requires our attention as an ongoing process. Your physical health can influence your mental health, both positively and negatively. Also, life experiences, work, your social and economic environment, relationships, and the community you live in. The importance of being mentally healthy is that it contributes to how you feel, think, and act, either in a healthy, life-affirming ways that lead you to being able to enjoy your life, to live effectively, dealing with life's challenges. Because it's a given, those of us that have lived beyond the age of 2 know that life has challenges, and that's not to paint those challenges as either negative or positive. They're just challenges. They're challenges for a 1-year-old or 18-month-old to learn how to walk. They're challenges to a 1-year-old to a 2-year-old to break teeth. So life comes with challenges. Having a good mental health helps us to manage the challenges of life. Mental health supports one's ability to be resilient. And what is resilience? What does it mean to be resilient? Resiliency is the inner strength you use to cope or to deal with the stresses and the challenges of life. Resiliency is your ability to bounce back, your ability to come back, like the 1-year-old or the 18-month-old or the 9-month-old learning to walk. Resiliency is what gets that baby up when they fall down and lets them start all over again. Being resilient is the ability to get back up into life and not to resign yourself from not being engaged in your own life and well-being. So again, what is mental illness? We talked about mental health. I would just want to add, and this is, again, a non-clinical definition, just my own observation. For me, being mentally healthy has to do with having some congruency in your life where your behavior, who you believe yourself to be, who you say you are, and the behavior aligns in a congruent way. Meaning, if you would describe yourself as a person of integrity and honest and trustworthy, but your behavior shows something different, that suggests to me there's some imbalance there, and that mentally that you're not quite as healthy as you think that you are. So what is mental illness? Mental illness is always with us. Let me just say this, again, from this layperson's idea. Mental health is always with us, I should say, excuse me, and may at any time be positive or negative. However, the effects of your ability to function over a long period of time will be determined how mentally stable or healthy you are. Like any physical illness can disrupt or interrupt your life anytime you're diagnosed with a serious illness or a simple cold, or we know COVID. It can disrupt your daily routine. It can disrupt and interrupt your ability to function and be engaged in community. Likewise, with mental health, when your mental health is not stable, it can create the same kind of effect. For those dealing with mental illness, this becomes their challenge in managing their mental health. So everybody should, I would suggest, and must, I would offer, maintain their mental health the same way we do our physical health. Likewise, if you are physically dealing with an illness, a serious illness like cancer, or diabetes, or high blood pressure, hypertension, or some other kind, Crohn's disease, or some other kind of illness that you are living with, you can manage that to the degree where it's not disrupting and interrupting your life. And other than you telling someone or those close to you being aware of the condition that you have, you can function and lead a happy, long life for many people. Likewise, with mental health, you can be diagnosed, I would offer, with a mental disorder that can be managed over time with the proper treatment and intervention, where you too can live a long, productive, and happy life. However, I would suggest we all must be constantly surveyors and intentionally do those things that support our mental health, even if we are not diagnosed with a mental illness. Again, like physical health, mental health must be maintained. So today I want to just share briefly from this notion of mental health and spirituality, parallel realities. In order to have this conversation, though, I would say that we have to first deal with the elephant in the room. And that is the stigma around mental health or mental disorders or mental illness, many of which are rooted in the myths about mental health. And we try to just address a few of those as we begin. Mental health, like physical health, is rooted in the human condition. It's our shared histories. As long as we have existed as a human family, we have been challenged with maintaining both our physical and our mental well-being. Albeit at different times that was understood differently, nevertheless, that's always been a part of the human condition. We've made tremendous advancements over the last centuries in understanding health and wellness, treatments and cures physically. And we've also gained some insights into causes and treatments and how to assess and diagnose and help people maintain good mental health. However, one of the areas where we have historically lagged behind in both physical and mental health has been, for me, in our experience within certain communities of color and within our communities of faith at the intersection of race and gender. So let me just share, again, as I should say, from my experience, growing up in the Black Pentecostal church, in the wake, I was born during that period where the Tuskegee experiment overshadowed our collective imagination. And the kind of medical experiments that were done on Black women's bodies still haunted our communities. There was this collective fear of the medical field and resistance to treatment by both physicians and a lack of acknowledgement of mental health issues within our communities. Mental health or mental disorders were most often understood as being the work of, quote unquote, the devil, demon possession, character weaknesses, or lack of faith in God. For Black folks in a country where at your best you were dehumanized and lacked basic treatment as a human being mentally fragile wasn't an option. It wasn't something that one could admit to. Again, I lived during the time when it was very easy to commit someone to a mental institution, either vis-a-vis a family member or the state. It didn't take much to say someone was, quote unquote, crazy and put them away and throw away the key. Just being Black and wanting more than the system afforded, you could be considered having a mental disorder. Just being Black and not wanting to live in a society where you had to deal with racism and discrimination and be terrorized on a day-to-day basis, you could be deemed by other cultures as being mentally unstable. 400 years of slavery, oppression, Jim Crow, segregation, white domestic terrorism it's no wonder that Black folks and other communities of color, as we've learned today, who've experienced similar plights in these United States of America and in foreign lands, to wonder that there's any sanity left in us at all. Yet we've managed to cope with what we had. We found ways where we were able to express our anger, our frustration, our fears, our dreams, hopes, and pains through our music, through our art, through our love for our family and connections, and through our faith, and most particularly for me, through church. So being deeply spiritual, I believe, was the salvation of people of color. But when the world could not offer them a physical plane or material world where we could be fully human, we found a spiritual plane. We found a spiritual reality where we could transcend the limitations of this world and thrive. What one does to survive is good and necessary, and it should never be judged. If you got through a situation, if you made it over some challenge in life, if you were able to overcome, and whatever you did to survive the abuse, the harm, you made it. However, it's important to note that survival and thriving are two different mindsets and require different brain waves and different emotional energy and affect the body both physically and mentally different. You're in a different frame of mind when you're trying to survive versus when you're thriving. It takes a different kind of energy. It affects your body physically in a very different way when you're in survival mode versus when you're in thriving mode, which means you are happy, you're enjoying your life, and you're fulfilling who you are. The church, for many of us, was our place of solace. It was our only refuge, and it was the place of validation in a world that told us we were less than human. It was the place where we could wail and we could holler and we could dance and fall out, foam at the mouth, and let go of all that pent up emotions that we could not express elsewhere without being deemed crazy. The church was the place of comfort. Is where we were together, where we celebrated each other, we comforted each other. We did not have to explain ourselves to one another because we recognized in each other's eyes our own reality. It was in the safety of the church that we were able to survive. While we were in the church, however, the world outside was continuously moving and changing and evolving around us. The civil rights legislation came and went, and women's rights came and went, and an opening of what it means to be a free human being was challenged and changed on this plane in the United States and on the world landscape. And so we begin to think about ourselves and our place in the world very differently. And so we thought the struggle was over for many of us, communities of color, especially speaking now from my experience as an African-American woman. But we found that the struggle was not over, but that it was masked behind different wallpaper. It was the same rotting, termite-filled walls, but it had been covered over with fresh new wallpaper. The reality of many of us was one of coping in a hostile environment and finding acceptance in the church. But when we thought the landscape had changed, the interior of the church also began to change. Perhaps it had been changing all along, and because we were in survival mode, we didn't necessarily see it. Our perception was what we were able to perceive given the circumstance of our life at that time. While our spirits thrived in this alternative world of the church that it became our place of refuge, we left our minds outside the church. And when we tried to reclaim them, we realized that we were living in two parallel realities. The reality of our spirituality, which would take us to other places, even without any copacetic drugs. We could literally in church, and I've experienced this myself, and I've witnessed it myself, transcend this natural plane and be taken to another place, just in the spirit, just through the music, just through the instruments and the gathering, and sometimes even through the preaching. But when we would come down off that high, the reality of our lives was that we were still dealing with issues of mental health. How do we merge the two? How do we forge the gap between our minds and our spirit? Confronting and dismantling the stigma of mental health, or more precisely, mental illness. The notion of cognizant dissonance allows one to separate internally and find a mental path that allows you to harmonize the external world with your internal perceptions. When there's that disconnect, you're able to find or carve out like a roadway mentally that to harmonize those two. So even though it makes sense to you, to the outside world, it's still an imbalance. Can we be spiritually sound and mentally sound simultaneously? What does it mean to have a spirituality that functions energetically at a level beyond the limitations of our physical or material world, yet still be grounded in a reality that has quote unquote right perceptions and makes use of available resources to maintain both physical health and mental health? My concern today is that our churches, which were once our institutions for survival, have become, for far too many of us, and I'm not at all talking about all of them, because many of them still hold up that standard, and those that do, you know who you are. But for far too many of us, unhealthy places where those people can hide out, not just in the pews, but in the leadership role, in positions of leadership, masking their own mental health challenges. The safe, sacred, spiritual places become what seems like analogous to this movie that's from the 70s, I believe, One who flew over the cuckoo's nest, the home of the mentally challenged, or an alternate reality. For those who have rejected the structure of organized religion or the church, there seems to be little balance in coming to terms with reconciling one's mental health with one's spirituality. My own personal experience, and I'm going to have to end here, and then I'll probably do part 2 of this at some other point. But I grew up in a family and a community where mental health disorders was the best known secret. In my household, there was paranoia, schizophrenia, and depression. In the community, the neighborhood where I lived, there was alcoholism, depression, paranoia, delusional thinking. In the churches that I frequented, there was delusional thinking and overall behaviors that were inconsistent with the reality of the lived experiences of the parishioners. So I grew up in an atmosphere where mental health or mental challenges was prevalent. And it wasn't just my reality. I thought that as a child growing up, that being the best known secret, this was my household, this was my neighborhood, these were my churches. But no, as an adult, I've come to realize this is the existence that we live in. Hence the stigma and the best known secret, not just for myself, but for many of us. In other words, there were 2 parallel realities: mental health, which for the most part was ignored, even when the pink elephant in the room was sucking all the oxygen out of you, and the reality of one's spirituality that could not save one from the fragmented and tormented mental state. I've come to find that spirituality can be an escape. It can be a tool. It can be a safe place to be, but it cannot save us from the torment of our own mental instability or challenges. The behavior of those most affected and impacted could not be denied. At some point, I had to deal with my own mental health as I did my physical health. I mean, I didn't grow up going to doctors regularly. That wasn't the way of the world in my community back then. Physically, we went there for the dentist, you went for your eyes, you went if you were pregnant, but you didn't routinely go for annual checkups or routinely go to the doctor for physical issues, let alone for mental health. So I had to deal with my own mental health as I did my physical health, as I woke one morning and realized that my body had some challenges, but I also realized that my mental health was in crisis, and I needed to seek guidance and professional support if I was to regain my mental stability. So let me say this as I close. There is no shame to being diagnosed with a mental disorder. Let me say that again. There is no shame in being diagnosed with a mental disorder, no more than there is in being diagnosed with cancer, with hypertension, with diabetes, with Crohn's disease, with kidney disease, with any kind of disease. There is no shame. So let's just put that elephant out of the room. Remove the stigma. Many disorders are not the work of the devil, my dear friends. They are not about demon possession, my loved ones, or a character with weakness or flaw. Let us be clear. They cannot ever be about mind control and the influences of the environment in which we live. I'm going to have to end here, and I'll pick up part 2 at some point, and I'll begin to talk about this idea of mind control and the influences of the environment in which we live and how it can affect our physical health and our mental health. Thank you for just sharing with me in this conversation. Ashe and amen. As I bring us back to center, we have our affirmations. I'm going to ask Bettina to cue those up if she can. And before, I know Nadia was having some trouble coming in and out. I had promised to ask my sister if she wanted to share anything before we do the affirmations and come back to center. Sister Bandley, if you would like to share anything before we close out, as we move towards closing.
Thank you, Saundra. I just was applauding your breakdown, description, and explanation. Was awesome. You might not be a mental health counselor, but your insight was amazing. Very good, very well done. I will just have one point to basically kind of bring us home to look towards the future with a hope that health and wellness is something that begins before we're born. And with our parents in our mother's womb in our household. Health and wellness is not just a responsibility of our home, it's responsibility of our educational system. I don't think Shakespeare taught me about health and wellness. I don't think some of the history I learned taught me about health and wellness, at least not the kind in my community. I don't think many of the classes I took through my 12 years of basic learning taught me about health and wellness, which is sad because we cannot apply what we don't know. And we're talking about mental illness, and I challenge us all to realize we won't be able to identify and communicate with someone with mental illness if we don't recognize what mental health is. Because we won't be able to distinguish the difference. We're not taught to even validate each other in our health and well-being state of being. Our jokes are borderline the criticism of mental illness. Do we not realize that? Our TV sitcoms talk about more mental illness and jokes, so we really don't even know how to communicate about it without joking. There's a lot of educational awareness that needs to change, and I hope our mindsets focus on changing that dialogue of what is mental health? What is well-being? How do you maintain it? How do you see it in each other? How do you validate it in your family, in your friends? And the most important component of any health and wellness is the number one need we all have is to connect, and connection means we need community.
Yes.
And so thank you. And I again appreciate everything you broke down. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Bandley. Thank you for just sharing that. We're going to move to bring ourselves back to center with our affirmations for mental health and well-being. Bettina, if you're able to share those in our hearing for us.
Affirmations for mental health and well-being. I will practice self-care. I embrace the present moment. I am letting go of unrealistic expectations. I am allowed to feel upset, angry, and sad sometimes. That's part of being human. My personal boundaries are important, and I'm allowed to express my needs to others. No is a complete sentence, and I don't have to explain or justify my boundaries. I am allowed to feel good and to experience pleasure in life. I am worthy of receiving good things and accomplishing my goals in life. The past is the past, and my past doesn't predict my future. I forgive myself for mistakes I made, and I refuse to hold them against myself. I am allowed to take up space, to have desires, and to have a voice. I don't have to give up my hopes and dreams. Growth is sometimes bumpy and isn't always linear, but I will stay for the course. Healing is within reach for me. I love my body, my mind, my dreams, and my goals. I will surround myself with people who love and support me unconditionally. I accept myself for who I am. Today, I will do my best.
Ashe. and amen. Take these with you during the week, and may they encourage you and allow you to stay on a path to positive mental health and well-being. All right, we're going to segue to the announcements. Nadia, are you able to share on the screen for me?
Yeah, let me just pull it up.
Thank you. So we have a lot of exciting things coming up over the next few weeks into June, and I just want to share a little bit of that with you. First, as always, we offer the opportunity for you to share support 4 ways: through email invoice, through Cash App, PayPal, or via snail mail. We're going to be launching our biannual fundraising drive June 15th, and we'll be letting everyone know a little bit more about that. So 1 month, we're going to open that window from June 15th to July 15th for those who want to support our community to do so in a big way. So I'm just going through them as you're trying to pull it up, Nadia. Also, on Tuesdays, we're still with our Bible study, community Bible study here at 950 Bergen Street in person and via our YouTube channel with Pastor Eric Andrews. This will be our 6th week coming up this Tuesday in an 8-week series and on rediscovering the message of Jesus. And so we're excited about what's been happening here in our community, coming in and being a part of the study, and we appreciate Pastor Andrews for his efforts. Wednesdays, 10 a.m. to 11, with Shaka George, Tai Chi classes, Discovering the Healer Within. If you are in the Newark area, or if you are in the greater Newark area, come on down. Wednesday mornings, 10 a.m. to 11. You will not, I promise you, you will not regret it. It can only benefit you both physically, mentally, and spiritually. Right here, 950 Bergen Street in Newark. On Fridays, we have our meditation and our bag lunch. That's 12 p.m. to 12:30. Our doors are open to the community. Coming up next week, May the 28th, Brenda will be back, and she's going to be sharing again, continuing on this theme, mental health, overcoming the inner critic. That's going to be her presentation, and we're looking forward to that as we move to close out this month and our discussion on mental health for this month. But I'm going to come back and do part 2 because I have a whole another set of notes to continue from today. The Divine Feminine Study Group. We did our 9-week series. We ended 2 weeks ago. We will resume. I had first said May 23rd. I'm still putting together our topic and the lessons, and I want it to be where it is both informative and inspirational for you. So I'm going to move that date we have to June 20th. So we will resume that study, and hopefully next week I'll have the topic clear that I can share with you. Also, Triumph Life Ministry, music ministry under Wesley. We released last week on Mother's Day our latest single, The Forces of Nature. If you haven't had opportunity to download it yet, you can go to Apple, Spotify, iTunes, and other digital platforms. It's also on our YouTube channel, as is all of our other singles that we've released. We started this project last August, and it's just been a wonderful experience. And we have, all of our music has been in line with our message, with our energy, with the spirit of the church and who we are. So the first Sunday in June, Reverend John will be back with us presenting. He'll bring the sermon, and his topic is the God of our mothers and fathers. I'm going to be just sharing more announcements about that in the coming weeks. The second Sunday in June, Minister Obina and our Nigerian church will be in charge. They haven't done this in a while, so Nigerian ministry will be on with us. I don't know yet what their outline will be, but we're looking forward to being in community with them. On the third Sunday in June, I'm really excited because we're going to release our next single. That's also Father's Day. And we have our next single that's coming out titled Mama Don't Worry. And you say, well, what does that have to do with fathers? But the message and the lyrics of the song fits into the topic that we will be talking about that day. So part of our mission and ministry here at Triumph Life is to really balance out this notion of a spiritual community and a loving community is represented by how we show up as upholders of justice in the community. And I don't know that, I believe it was Cornel West that said, justice is what love looks like in public. And so for us, justice is important in our communities. And we're going to be looking at this issue of immigration and how there's certain legislation that's being passed that's targeting illegal immigrants, making it really in a terroristic way. Everyone in this country are immigrants. The Africans that came here on slave ships was forced here, but otherwise everyone migrated here except the indigenous populations. So how dare we marginalize and criminalize and dehumanize populations of people? We'll talk about that more. I'll share more with you next week, but look forward to that on the third Sunday in June. So I'm excited about everything that's happening here at Triumph Life. And thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for joining us each week, each Sunday, in whatever way that you show up and that you're present with us, whether it's your prayers, whether it's your thoughts, your ideas, your energy. I thank you. Our team thanks you. Our board thanks you. We appreciate you. And we feel the love. We feel the energy. As we close out, I'm going to ask Nadia, who's reading the Words to Live By. Is it Nadia, I believe? Oh, Bettina. I forget who I put down to share. If you're able to pull it up, if not, I can go ahead and do it.
I could read it. I just can't share the screen, but I could read the words.
That's fine. I understand, Nadia.
Words to live by. The heart of the person before you is a mirror. See there your own form. Shinto.
Let that settle in. As we leave today, let that settle in you. As we think about ourselves, we think about where we began with our meditation, I am. But the heart of the person before you is a mirror where you can see your own form. All right, Minister Albina, I'm going to ask you to do our closing prayer if you can. If not, I will share it. And Wesley, what are we going to do for our music to close out? You want to cue up something, or
yes, I'll pull up something that I'm excited to hear.
Okay, all right. So you want to play that, and then I'll do the closing prayer.
I would like to do it after the closing prayer.
All right, that'll work. That'll work. So let us pray. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end war, for we know that you have made the world in a way that people must find their own path to peace within themselves and with their neighbors. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end starvation, but you have already given us the resources with which to feed the entire world if we would only use them wisely. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to root out prejudice, but you have already given us eyes with which to see the good in all people if we would only use them rightly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end despair, for you have already given us the power to clear away slums and to give hope if we would only use our power justly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end disease, but you have already given us great minds with which to search out cures and healing, if we would only use them constructively. Therefore, we pray instead, O God, for strength, determination, and willpower. To do instead of just pray, to become instead to merely wish. Ashe and Amen.
Feel the rhythm of your own breath that was given to you from birth. Feel the pulse of your